Since attacks are now targeting individuals and organizations, and as the saying goes that humans are the new target, sector or country, external threat intelligence sources are not necessarily always 100% effective. Therefore, reliance on internal sources must be higher, and internal threat intelligence gathering should be done from every perspective. CrowdStrike, which is a leading threat intelligence organization, in their recent findings have said that financially motivated crime activity occurred on nearly continuous basis. They also observed that an increase in incidents of ransomware, maturation of the tactics used, and increasing ransomware demands from e-crime actors has increasingly put these actors at the verge of conducting data exfiltration and enabling the weaponization of sensitive data through threats of leaking of embarrassing and proprietary information. And over the course of the past 7 to 8 months in the current pandemic, we have seen distinct patterns of ransomware, malware, which are evolving on day-to-day basis. We are seeing trends of ransomware as a service. We're seeing trick bots. We're seeing state actors and non-state actors evolving their tactics, techniques, and procedures. My name is Farooq Wahab Nair. I am the CISO at Orion, which is the Research and Education Network for the province of Ontario in Canada. And the topic of discussion for this panel is about institutional SOCs and CERTs. Before starting today's conversation, I would like to introduce today's esteemed panel. I'd like to start off with Arbab, and then we'll go to the other panelists, and then we can dive into the conversation. So Arbab, over to you.
Thank you, Farooq, for welcoming on the panel and sharing views on an important topic, which we will be discussing through this panel. My name is Arbab. I am working as a CISO in OneLink Private Limited, which is a payment system in Pakistan and connected to all the banks in Pakistan, and also providing other payment services like bill payments, fund transfers, point of sale transactions. So we are providing all the payment services in that landscape in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Arbab, for your introduction. Now over to Dr. Rafi Shan.
Thank you, Farooq. It's exciting to be sharing this panel with such an empowered panelist. My name is Rafi Shan. I'm heading and steering KP-CERC, which is kind of a provincial body in one of the provinces in Pakistan on information and cybersecurity. Our role is to basically complement and support digital initiatives in KP so that they can work in a secure and workable manner. So we define different policies and strategies in line with the information security, and obviously with the business function for the public sector, risk assessment, risk profiling of the public sector applications and systems, and a lot of other activities in the public and private engagement arena. Moreover, we work on the capacity side as well. Building the capacity of the different attached departments. There are like 160 different departments, institutes, and different government bodies affiliated with the provincial government. So we tend to look after them in domains of cybersecurity, information security.
Thank you, Rafi Shan. Over to Amir Siddiqui.
Thank you, Farooq, and hi to all. I am Amir Siddiqui. I am Chief Information Security Officer for a microfinance bank in Islamabad, U Microfinance. I have 16 years of total experience with the last 10 years in the information security domain. I've been to information security head for the last 3 organizations. And since the role has evolved, the importance of information security has increased a lot. And we are the one of the few CISOs who has seen the role from non-significant one to getting the importance and highlight just because of the dependence on technologies day by day, and ever-changing cybersecurity threats, and all the state-sponsored attacks as well. I've worked throughout the banking industry, started with the software development and landed into the information security domain. I've worked mostly in the Pakistani banking industry and I've spent a few times in the Gulf as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. And now over to Mahir Sheikh.
Hey, hello everyone. Assalamualaikum. My name is Mahir. I'm basically running two companies, Trillium Information Security Systems and Cydea Tech. I've been into cybersecurity since 2008 now. Engaged in providing lots of services, managed services, solutions, and also developing our own technology. So my focus has been in terms of R&D and development. I've been focused on threat intelligence, deception, and those areas, while now looking into some advanced attack techniques and simulation of some advanced attacks. I also sit in the council. I'm a council member of the Electronic Certification Accreditation Council. So looking at the legislation side a bit for digital signatures, PKI, Root CA, all of that for the country as well. So looking forward to participating in the panel.
Thank you, Mahir. And with that, we can probably start our panel for today. So we've got quite a diverse panel. We've got at least two CISOs, in fact, and Dr. Rafi is heading a CERC, is also a CISO, and then Mahir Sheikh representing an MSSP. So it's going to be a pretty interesting discussion. So I think we'd like to start off the discussion by talking about the concept of a SOC or a security operations center and the kind of value it can bring to an organization in combating threats or responding to security incidents. So I'd like to turn it over to Amir Siddiqui in terms of the value that SOC brings in and how it helps organizations in responding to security threats and incidents.
Well, thank you so much, Farooq. Like you said, the importance of Security Operations Center. It's been a saying that it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. The point focus around the importance of information security monitoring and responding to any information security incident. And to achieve that role, Security Operations Center is the nucleus. There's an important concept of information security and security operations that we need to recognize and understand that while technology is at our ease, it also creates evolving security backdrop where new cybersecurity challenges impact business operations. There are a few more important concepts like security posture and vulnerability assessment, information security risk management, and ease of doing business versus the security controls being placed, and the significance of information insurance while we develop Security Operations Center. When we get into Security Operations Center, we also need to look upon the kind of business that we are facilitating. And, in terms of increasing the control side, we should also look into that we are not overkilling the purpose. If we are doing very strong encryption and, it's increasing payload on the service side. So, ease of business is not there. So, if we know the posture, technology posture, if we know what are the risks we have and what controls can be effective to mitigate them. Before developing Security Operations Center, getting into security operations area, we must ensure that we have already developed information security policies and procedures, and they are the good ones. Good ones means they are on the best standards covering overall organization security posture. They should be together supported by the standard framework guidelines and all the international compliance or local regulatory or international regulatory compliance as well. And most importantly, we should have a good incident response plan to deal with any cybersecurity incidents or cybersecurity emergency. Because security operations is it's not purely about monitoring it, and you're not getting into responding to the incident. If you are just killing the alerts, you are closing the alerts there, it will not achieve its true essence. SOCs definitely add huge value to the organization, though it seems that it's pure, very expensive unit. but the revenue it generates is totally unprecedented. It's the responsibility of CISO or head of information security to set an awareness amongst the senior management and BODs to understand the cost rationalization on security investment. It's kind of a probability and statistics kind of a thing, but yes, showing the efficiency of certain security controls can be easily compared with the price of not placing that control at all. Knowing the fact that security attacks are increasingly getting complex and very on AI basis, and so getting the compromise is inevitable. You are it's not about if, it's about when. Like John Chambers, Cisco CEO, said, there are two types of companies: those who have been hacked and those who don't know yet they have been hacked. So having said this, SOC is not about only preventive measures, but the development of intelligent and integrated monitoring capabilities like scanning, performing pen tests, cyber threat intelligence, platform support, with the strong IR plans, with cyber drills testing, the red team, blue team, purple team exercises, and for increasing your controls and evaluating your risk from these exercises. Because when there's a breach in organization, the attackers need some time to accomplish their objective. After getting unauthorized access to the network, SOC plays a very important role in identifying and preventing further escalation of intruders towards exploitation. But if your SOC is not there, you won't be able to get in that time and stop any kind of a cyber attack. It stands as one of the major reasons to place a SOC to combat cybersecurity threats. In order to defend SOC development in organization and the expenses you can get out from it, CISO should focus on the towards financial and the reputational losses and defend those expenses in comparison with that. That's a whole lot of science, how you can do that. You can get the numbers that if we get such kind of a compromise, this number of financial loss we can get, this number of unrecoverable reputational loss we can get, and definitely we'll lose the business as well while we are, dealing with the cyber threat. So to defend a cybersecurity budget for SOC, we must evaluate how we can detect a compromise and severity, what impact it would create on a business, who will be the responsible for detecting and reacting to compromise, who should be involved and informed when we have to deal with the compromise, and most importantly, how and when it should be communicated to internal and external stakeholders about the compromise and its impact. Developing a SOC is typically a system development lifecycle like SDL we normally sees. It has a planning, designing, building, and operation stages. SOC has a kind of a model that we normally know SOC from level 1, level 2, and level 3. But there's a different kind of a model as well that we need to observe, we need to orient, we need to decide, and we need to act. Observe is the monitoring stage. We are using different technologies to look into the logs, and we are having threat intelligence tools there. We are doing penetration testing, doing the risk assessment. This is totally the observe stage. In orient stage, we collect and we evaluate that there are few false positive or not. And after identifying that it was not a false positive, it was a real incident, and something is going to happen just because of this. This is the attack vector that we see. We have to decide what we have to do. Either we need to close few services, we need to deal with the hardware, deal with the software, deal with the application, or whatever. And in the final stage that we know as as L3 layer, we have to act on it and we have to close that vulnerabilities going on. The second strong arm of security operations, or SOC, we must say, is the IR, incident response plan. We know typical cyber kill chain. Normally we do red team and blue team exercises. So the red team is the thing that are the people into the IR things. They are the team that need to be ready to deal with any kind of incidents, because some attacks might give you time to reveal themselves, but certain attacks are there that they are 0 days and you don't know, you don't have any skills, you don't have any tools to identify them. So red team should be, able to do the pen testing things. Red team should do the compromise assessment kind of a thing, and red team should look upon the leftover alerts that the incident blue team has ignored, because whatever the attacker thinks in mind, he has something that a few people will detect me, and to evade that thing, uh, there comes the role of the red team, where they can identify the people inside the network, or CNCC working under. So we use typical cyber kill chain in evaluating the incident responses, and a typical red team, blue team exercises gets into it. Blue team is the SOC operations team; those are the monitoring guys, and red team is the guy that they're developing the cyber kill chain, doing the penetration testing and compromise systems as well.
Thank you, Amir. And I think if I was to sum up the key points that you mentioned, I think a SOC is a combination of people, process, and technology, and it has got a lot to do with reactive and proactive measures. And I think making sure that all of these three elements or pillars are properly coordinated and managed will result in a more effective SOC. Thank you, Amir, for sharing your perspective. I'd like to switch gears now and like to bring in Arbab into the conversation. Now, Arbab, you work for an organization which is running the payment switch for the entire country, and you guys are servicing and in fact, the entire financial services industry of Pakistan. So, and you guys have recently partnered with an organization which is Mahir's company and some other stakeholders to come up with some kind of threat intelligence. So, my question to you is that does the financial service industry or any other industry or any other sector require a sectoral cert? Uh, so that's my first question to you.
Okay, thank you, Farooq, for your question. First, we need to understand that as the technology is increasing and organizations are going for online businesses and digitization is increasing, and it is increasing by very aggressively. So as we are connecting to the cyberspace and cyberspace is going large, so here comes some risk associated with it, along with anything else. What we do, we get some risk on it. So in cybersecurity comes to deal with all these things. There is a component which is called CERT, which is very important part of this cybersecurity ecosystem. So what does CERT do is that they detect, protect, and respond to a cybersecurity incident. So then comes the part that what is the sectoral CERT. So sectoral CERT is that when we make a CERT which is doing its job for detection and protection and sharing awareness and doing the research and sharing information with all the members. So when you want to go large, when you want to uh, target all the segments, when you want to do an in-depth penetration to collaborate this effort, then you need to have some sectoral certs in place so that they can have specialization in that industry or in that segment, so that they have a common area of interest that can be addressed by a sectoral cert, and they can have a focused approach. That focus approach will bring all the common points to be addressed. They can do the detailed working on the issues or the security concerns or the security matters they want to address. So sectoral certs are becoming very important part of the cybersecurity ecosystem, which also segment with the other certs and collaborate with all the other certs in the hierarchy. So you come up with a hierarchy that you have, let's say, a national cert, and then you have government cert, then you have private or sectoral cert, which they all collaborate to get the cybersecurity of the ecosystem intact. So so we also get advantage in sectoral such that It also provides you indigenous or localized threat intelligence, and they normally interact with other CERTs as well within a local or the small area or the, you can say, geography. Likewise, we can see there are examples in European Union where each country has its own national CERT, and they have then government CERT, then many private CERTs, and likewise other countries also have these sectoral CERTs in place. Like Pakistan has also done this and working on it and have CERTs in place to different levels. Like as you mentioned that OneLink has collaborated with one of the leading security provider, and we are also providing service to the financial sector. We are covering the financial sector in the country, and we are targeting that all the financial institutions may join us, and they are joining us, and they may use it for the betterment and the understanding of the upcoming threats, because this is a very important part of the CERT, that they share the threat intelligence, because they have learned from others' lessons, or they have learned from the advanced research they are doing. So this provides a very helpful hand to all the participants in that industry, and they can do better coordination because the sectoral CERT understands what are the limitations and what are the needs of the industry. So they can provide better trainings, better awareness. They can perform need analysis of a sector very uh, inclusively. And they can make tailor-made programs for the industry, that even if some players are not on the same level, then they can make programs for organization so that all the members come up on the same page. They can create their capabilities on the same level. So sectoral CERT is very important, and to collaborate in that is really benefiting for all to learn from each other.
Thank you. And just a follow-on question for you. Uh, what are the key strengthening components or key pillars of an effective sectoral CERT?
Okay, the CERT comes with a very important thing, which is you can say it has to have a very good relationship collaboration model. So it is very important that each organization share information. They are ready for collaboration, and sectoral CERT gives an advantage that they can trust uh, an organization on it, and they understand that that organization understand their requirements. So the collaboration is easy for a sectoral CERT to with the players and the industry, to the private organizations as well. So relationship, collaboration, the trust factor is very important. The entity should be trusted, and it is very important to have a trust in our organization to share very important information. Other factor which I would like to state is effective communication. That CERT should be able to do very effective communication of the threat intelligence. They should be able to respond in a very effective manner. The technology should be very good in it, that the members can communicate on both ways. Even there should be automatic sharing of the information, automated ingestion of the important threat information into the systems. Timely exchange of information is important, and there should be different effective channel which can be used to share the information on a different channel which a player is conveniently adaptable to it. And finally, accessibility of that communication channel is very important. Third factor, what I would say that it is the industry support and industry ownership to that sectoral cert is very important. That community support it and they own it, like that, because it is beneficial for all to share the information, to use that information and equip themselves for the upcoming threats. Because as soon as, let's say, an organization has got some challenges or they have got some attack, so they will learn from it and they can share that information with the players very quickly in the effective communication, and then same can be used by other players before they get targeted, and they can take required measures to counter it. And finally, the strengthening component is what I see is that specialized sector knowledge, because they understand the laws, regulations, requirements, protocols of the industry. They can relate the relevant threats to the industry, and they can build capabilities for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Arbab. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you were saying that communication is key. I recall attending a session by the Carnegie Mellon Institute, the people who came up with the idea for CERT, and I asked them the question that what makes an effective CERT, and I heard three things: communication, communication, and communication. So communication is key over here, and I think that's what matters the most. So thank you, Arbab, for sharing your perspective. गुफ्तगू को आगे लेके बढ़ते हैं. मैं थोड़ा सा उर्दू का भी फ्लेवर देना चाहूँगा इसमें ताकि we can open up a bit. I would like to bring in Dr. Rafi Shan into the conversation. I'd like to mention that Dr. Rafi Shan is heading Pakistan's first ever provincial CERC, or because I think the province of KP was the first province in Pakistan to ever come up with the concept of a CERC, or perhaps even come up with the concept of a CERT in a government, be it provincial or federal government. So, from your perspective, you're a trendsetter, Rafi. That's if I was to say that. And in your opinion, how do you think that a CERT setup at the government level will benefit the public as well as the private sector in improving the cybersecurity posture at a national and institutional level, and not to forget at the provincial level too? So over to you, Rafi.
Thank you, Farouk. It's a very exciting thing, which topic as well, close to my heart as well, which we are actually doing for the last couple of years. So we have to see the context of this whole thing from the public perspective. In fact, so with the increased digitalization and the use of ICT for the service deliveries, especially from the government departments. So the government departments are actually using ICT very aggressively to deliver the similar services which they were doing on a physical basis into a digital space. So that's one of the key drivers, in fact, whether that services are from G to G, from one public entity to the other public entity, information sharing, data sharing for various decision-making, policy formulations, and chasing up the day-to-day matters. It could be G2C applications where government want to basically disseminate a lot of services to the citizens. In fact, it could be C to G. We have seen a citizen portal which has basically surpassed a couple of million marks within its launch, where the citizens were actually engaged into the active decision making and policy formation. And they were basically sharing their complaints and the pain points as well, where the services of the government departments were not up to the mark. And then we have seen a lot of wave of applications and services from G to G2C, where basically kind of government departments are offering kind of a one window operation to the citizens. Citizens can walk into one service center, then they can avail the services from X number of departments, and they're working. So with this whole context, and we have to understand that government has been very, very active. I'm sure this is the same phenomenon world over for the last couple of years. So for the public sector, the monetary value for the digital assets is huge, because it's not only the citizen, it's not primarily, it's one of the key elements is the privacy and security of the citizens who are actually putting their data and personal records with the government departments. But a lot of government departments have significant monetary value attached with it. For example, if you take custom and excise data, if you can take the taxation data, if you can look into all of the billing and a lot of other data. And most importantly, there's a kind of a trust relationship between the physical world and the cyber world, where the digital systems represent the government face of it, in fact. So the versatility of application systems have driven this huge surge of ICTs, so as information security and a lot of associated technologies such as CERT and SOC. So if you see the context, the Pakistan First Digital Policy was launched in 2011. So 2001, in fact, it was revised a decade later. The last version was revised in 2018, which basically one of its key deliverables was information security at national level, in fact. And if you see the different provinces, Punjab has its policy sorted in 2018. KP has its information and digital policy sorted in 2018. Both of these policies are actually taking information security as a key deliverable. In fact, what KP did is it was basically virtually adopting GDPR as a benchmark, and and establishing the same policies and procedures in the associated departments as in line with the GDPR. So it is very, very important for a provincial body or the public institute to have a secure infrastructure, technologies, and the processes in place to have the required visibility of the cyberspace, where they can ensure the safety of the citizens, not only the citizens, their data, in fact, and most importantly, the information systems, because the portfolio is so versatile. If you take the health applications, if you take the education applications, if you take excise and taxation, and if you go on and on. But for example, for my province, there are like 160 plus different individual departments ranging from forests, and so every department has its own needs. So the provincial information security policy are the benchmarks need to be comprehensive enough, but it should be flexible enough as well to basically tailor for each department, in fact. So there are different models where we can basically deploy different technologies. For example, the CERT and SOC technologies, we can have centralized SOCs and CERTs for different departments. What we are doing in KP is basically working with a decentralized model where departments and asset custodians have their own visibility. For example, the health department have their own visibility, and the education could have their own visibility. So we are working on the same process, in fact, where the institutional SOCs are further broken down into kind of a smaller units where they can stay around their own individual policies based on their own customized needs, but covering under the provincial our sectoral provincial CERTs, in fact. So the technologies in SOCs and CERTs are very critical for the public sector, in fact, for having a required visibility and to ensure the health of the digital systems. Not only that, they need a kind of a comprehensive rollout of an information security program where they need to keep an eye on the applications, the health of the applications, the required visibility, what's happening inside the applications, to look into and to mitigate into that attacks, which could basically hamper the digital service delivery, because if the applications goes down, so does the government functions goes down. And some of the applications are so critical that if they are disrupted, that can basically paralyze a section of a government service delivery, in fact. So to have that kind of a visibility, and I think SOCs and CERT solutions and technologies are the ideal platform. I'm being a member of the National Information Security Committee by MOIT, but from that perspective, I can see that these technologies are critical for having a right visibility for the government. In fact, which will effectively will result into effective decision making. In fact, so coming down to the technology part and the process part of what you said. How we are actually looking at from the public sector is basically localizing the threats from the sector to sector, and what you rightly said before is looking into the enabling the communication side, making the departments talk to each other, enabling compliance of the established standard and policies and directives which we frequently roll out, and helping coordinate between the department, and most importantly the capacity for the government departments, so so that we can have a role-based kind of a capacity training program where each individual would have its tailor-made training program based on his job needs, in fact. So that's one aspect that will cover the human resource part. Second is the the process part, where we have the required number of policies, procedures, SOPs, but there has to be compliance framework with it, and some of it could be covered up in the CERT part, but for the SOC part, the deployment of technology for the government cloud infrastructure, where they can come up with the right reportings which can help facilitate government to allocate resources appropriately for the IT operations in the public sector. So I think most critical aspect is, again, engaging the stakeholders together on a single platform where they can effectively share the resources, whether it could be technology, whether it could be information, IOCs, and a lot of other aspects, and plus the capacity as well. So that's, I think, from the government perspective of the CERT and SOCs.
Thank you, Rafi. Thank you for bringing us up to speed in terms of what the government has been doing in Pakistan in terms of having government level certs and coordinating activities. Thank you. So with that, I would like to bring in Mahir Sheikh into the conversation, who is running an MSSP and has been in this space for quite some time. So Mahir, can you let us know about what kind of technology advancements have you seen in the area of cyber threat intelligence at an institutional level, at a sectoral level, and at a national level?
Yeah, well, threat intelligence is a very sort of vast sort of space, and there's a lot of sort of capabilities that are yet to be developed, but obviously we've come a very long way in it. So if you were to divide threat intelligence into sort of high level areas, you can sort of segregate it in two major areas. One is external threat intelligence, and the other is internal threat intelligence. Of course, how you use threat intelligence, then you can, there's strategic, there's tactical, there's operational threat intelligence, but at a much higher level, you have two types of threat intelligence sources. And there's a very large community behind external threat intelligence, where we have open source threat intelligence sources. There's a lot of malware analysts, firms like FireEye, CrowdStrike, Kaspersky, who are gathering a lot of threat intelligence from the attacks that they're seeing, and then publishing that out to their customers. But when you talk about sort of using threat intelligence within your operations or making threat intelligence actionable, you need to look at the perspective of, okay, is it external threat intelligence or is it internal threat intelligence? So external threat intelligence would essentially mean attacks that are happening around the world, and you find out about them. So you get IOCs from all of these open source sources, from these professional sort of paid sources, from all these vendors and service providers. But all of those IOCs, all of that intelligence, even if it's strategic, it's basically built on, or it's coming from attacks that they've seen outside of your organization or outside of your sector or outside of your geography in a lot of cases. So it's really important to tie in both sides. So getting that external threat intelligence, what's happening around the world, is extremely important, but you also need to find out what's happening inside. And so internal could mean organization, internal could mean sector, and internal could mean a country. Depends on who you're talking to and what your scope is. So while you can gather external threat intelligence, whether it's paid or whether it's open source, the challenge really comes into how do you get threat intelligence? How do you generate your own threat intelligence, which is internal threat intelligence? So there's various ways of doing that. So Of course, you've got your SOCs operating 24/7. If you have any incident, getting the IOCs, coming up with what happened, most likely why it happened, all of that investigation. So once you gather that information, if you start sharing that information within your organization or within your sector, that's a lot of valuable internal threat intelligence that you can gather. But that's sort of the manual side where humans come in either as part of incident response or as part of standard monitoring, where they get all this information, and then the act of sharing that will then convert that into threat intelligence for everyone else. But then there are ways of generating or gathering threat intelligence from other sources. For example, deception is a very big area where you can gather threat intelligence. So if you place decoys, or if you have a good deception strategy within a certain scope, any kind of attack that you see there can then be converted into IOCs, converted into actionable threat intelligence, and that can be shared across relevant sort of stakeholders as well. So it's basically there is a technology element to generating your own threat intelligence. There's a very big human element as well, and then there's obviously a whole ecosystem of specialists, service providers, researchers who are generating threat intelligence, but that will always be from an external perspective. So the real challenge is using or making both of these sources actionable. How do you gather? How do you make sure it's relevant? And then how do you use that threat intelligence, make it actionable in your day-to-day operations? So then all of this then you need really a platform, you need a technology to tie all of this in together and then push all of this intelligence out into your security controls, whether it's SIM platform, SIM solutions, firewalls, EDR solutions. So there's obviously a very large sort of technology side, there's a service provider side, and there's a whole sort of SOC side to it where humans come in, or incident response or forensics people who actually gather this information and then share that into some sort of platform or some sort of community. So yeah, it really is you have to marry in and combine all of these elements to achieve some state of threat intelligence. And then it's an ongoing situation. I mean, you learn, as attacks are becoming more targeted, and obviously in these day and age, I mean, the attackers are innovating faster than the defenders. So it's a very, very fast-paced, very fast-changing environment. So it's definitely a big challenge, but that's what makes it exciting. But it's a very large sort of area to get a hold of, and then try and increase your maturity. It's definitely a long journey to do that.
Yeah, like it's often said that cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. And what they often say is that threat intelligence should be actionable, should be tactical, and should be timely. We have about a minute left in our conversation, and I would like to get some thoughts from Dr. Rafi Shan on CERTs, on the concept of CERTs when it comes down to state and private technology platforms. I mean, getting threat intelligence or getting information from private and public sector. How do we strike the balance in between these two stakeholders? Rafi, you are on mute right now.
Okay, so one aspect is managing the technology part. MSSP is a great help for the public sector to help the public sector with the right set of technologies. But with a kind of a diverse kind of a portfolio for the applications and system, for example, the citizens and using a lot of digital systems across different platforms. Government has its own application requirements, and the private sector has its own requirements. So the challenge is basically having the right set of technologies which can basically have this love triangle between the citizens and the technology companies and the government sectors, because all of these three stakeholders have their own kind of a requirements in terms, for example, government want a kind of a reasonability, citizens want a secure space, and technology companies want ease of doing business, in fact. So having the right sort of a SOC and CERT technologies could basically help sort of this relationship very more harmonized in a kind of a data governance framework where government can have its required level of visibilities of this, cyber awareness. Citizens could have a more secure space where their contacts and consent around the data could be managed in a very seamless manner. And of course, companies could have their own ease of doing business, regardless of what sort of regulations are there in place. So I think this is an emerging challenge, but government is basically looking for the private sector to come up with the solutions so that can be rolled out.
Thank you, Dr. Rafi Shan. And let's just say, as our conversation was getting more intriguing and interesting, we just ran out of time. But you know what? Thanks a lot for sharing your perspective. So I'd like to thank all the participants for today's panel discussion. Arbab from OneLink, Dr. Rafi Shan from KP-CERC, Amir Siddiqui from UBank, and Mahir Sheikh from Trillium Information Security Systems. Thanks a lot for sharing your views and perspectives on developing and setting up institutional CERTs and SOCs. Hopefully, we can have a follow-up discussion on this sometime sooner than later. But there's lots for me to take away from today's discussion. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for
Pleasure.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I need to stay online for a few minutes.